Have you participated in a tournament that you felt was rigged? A listener of mine dealt with that situation, and I'm going to dive into it in today's pod. Dear Aaron, I'm part of a big pickleball group that does a monthly just for fun tournament with a large group of players where the organizer requires all partners to be selected at random, as well as the bracket. I've noticed that it seems like the organizer and some of his friends just happen to get the better partners and better draws. Meanwhile, I'm certainly not getting that. I'm a little concerned there's something fishy going on. Could the tourney be rigged? And how can I get to the bottom of this without coming across as, quote, that guy, end quote? Oh, I can see it now. This guy's looking at the bracket. He realizes his partner is some 82-year-old immobile guy named Norm, and he's going against the organizer in the first round, who happens to have Ben Johns, and the deep state is organizing this tournament. So I've been in pickleball 8.5 years. I've done my share of tournaments, and there are a handful of people that sometimes, say they see the draws and they think, there's something fishy going on. So I've never really been that way, but I will concede sometimes the optics are bad. Classic example, a lot of times when people organize a tournament, they're playing in it, even when there's a cash prize. They're the ones setting up the draws, the bracket, all that kind of stuff. And I've never been in a situation where I was suspicious. But again, the optics sometimes when the organizer is playing in the tournament, not very good. PPA, a lot of times when there is some kind of controversy between their players, like I know for a while, Tyson McGuffin and Tyler Loon were, kind of getting into it, and they just would happen to meet, kind of early on in the tournament. Things like that happen, and a lot of people are kind of like, was that really random? And I think it bleeds into the amateur scene as well. And then on top of that, we're seeing a record amount of, bad line calls and, delaminated paddles and, accusations about people not following the rules. And I think that kind of bleeds into the tournament overall, because I think a lot of people are walking in these tournaments kind of skeptical. So I'm guessing your pickleball crew can't afford to hire one of the big four accounting firms to kind of, audit the random selection. Ernst & Young does the NBA draft, but I'm guessing they're outside your pay grade. But there might be some things to do so you can kind of delve into this and get to the bottom of what's really going on. Okay, how do you handle this? There's the direct way and the indirect way. Okay, the direct way might not be the best course of action because you could be sitting there and making accusations and then get left out of the group. So unless you have hard evidence, I wouldn't do that. But the indirect method could give you a lot of clues, and then you can kind of base your decision on if the tournament is rigged from there. So one great indirect strategy would be going to the organizer and saying, hey, this is fun. It'd be really cool if we do the random, draw partners and the brackets to get a live stream, or could we do it on the courts one day? That would be kind of fun. It would build up hype. See how he reacts to that, because maybe if he quickly agrees to it, then it makes me more skeptical that the fix is in. But if he's kind of like, we're not doing that, then, then maybe the deep state is at work. You could also throw out, hey, what about doing some alternative ways of a tournament? Like, I think they call it crazy eights, where you play with different people against other people kind of at random, and then you tally up who won the most matches. You could do it that way, or throw out, selecting your own partner. And again, see how he reacts to that. Maybe he's open to it, maybe he's not. But if he's very quick to shut it down and be like, this is the way we're doing it, that tells you a lot. There are a couple other ways you could handle it too. You could kind of joke around with the organizer and, see what his body language is. You could be like, seems like he got Ben Johns that tournament. I'm sure you'll get J.W. Johnson for the next one. And, maybe he's uncomfortable with that. Maybe he laughs, but kind of check him out when you say that. The other way to kind of get to the bottom of this is maybe there are other people that feel the same way that you do. So I wouldn't tell a lot of people, but maybe the people you trust most in the group, you kind of ask them like, hey, is it just me? Or are you noticing that sometimes the draw is a little favorable to the organizer? And just see what they say. So I'd be careful here. You don't want to be known as that conspiracy theory guy in the group. Everybody will talk behind your back. You don't want people saying, Bill, he's a decent player, but he calls tight lines and he thinks the moon landing was fake. You don't want somebody to be like, oh yeah, Bill, he, grips his paddle with tin foil. Those kind of jokes are going to be all over the place. I could see somebody walking up to you being like, hey, are you going to watch Championship Sunday or are you going to watch reruns of the X-Files, right? Like all the jokes, all the comments are going to be behind your back. You don't want that. And the best way to make a big statement at a rigged tournament is have a real powerful paddle, and the draws don't even matter because you'll be blowing everybody away. And that brings up my pickleball planner spotlight tonight. I want to thank Rhombus for donating paddles to my trip to Ukraine. Greatly appreciate it. They're being used all over. And again, if you want a powerful paddle that blows people away, Rhombus is an excellent choice. All right, time for the flags. And today I can't throw this sucker here because I just don't really have any evidence yet that the tournament is rigged. There's suspicion, but I can't throw a penalty unless I see the foul. And in this case, I can't. But I'm a little suspicious, to be honest. Maybe the organizer, he has to set up the tournament. He doesn't want to put all this work in and lose in the first round with a bad partner. So maybe he's randomizing the draw, and if he doesn't like his partner or the draw, he randomizes it again. If you decide to go after the organizer directly, have your facts straight and have hard data. So start developing a dossier, maybe over like 10 tournaments, who played with whom, what were their dupers, who got the buys. You want all that information documented. Maybe you get some surveillance going on. Maybe, he's playing with his friends on one court and you have a little spy go over and listen in on what they're saying between games, right? Maybe some hidden cameras, right? But make sure you have hard evidence before you stand up on the medal stand and be like, stop everything. This is a sham. I know the truth. Before you have that moment, which would be highly entertaining, make sure you have that hard data in a dossier, please. So I hope this advice is helpful to you in your tournament battle against a puppet master. And remember this, when your immobile partner is getting lobbed at 282 and you're tracking the ball in the air, watch out for the black helicopter circling. That could be a problem for you. Thank you for listening today. If you find this content helpful or at least amusing, please like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps it grow, even if certain operatives in the CIA don't want it to. If you want me to get to the bottom of any drama or conspiracy theories in your group, just send it on to askaaronpb@gmail.com. And remember, the truth is out there.